Hey everyone,
Hey everyone, I'm Emma,
I'm Jess. Welcome to the first episode of the Blurb Society podcast.
where we have fun yapping about all the things we like or don't like, from books to movies to travel, food, especially food, and anything in between. We're hoping to bring a little laughter into your day.
So thanks for stopping by and let's get into our blurb for the day.
So today we're going to be reviewing the book Room to Breathe by Casey West. Casey West is one of my favorite romance authors, and when I heard she was coming out with a new book, I was really excited. Both of us have like a set list of questions that we're going to answer, and we're also working on getting those questions out to you soon so that you can follow along with us. Okay, so this book is a YA romance, and it was just published in January. First, we're going to get into our thoughts on the cover. So what did you think about that?
I think it's a really pretty cover. If you've never seen it before, it's would really appeal to the YA
The teenage
set.
girls.
Yeah, it's a pale yellow background with pink writing. What's this thing called? A cootie catcher or something?
Oh,
What is it
they
called?
call it a cootie catcher. I call it a fortune teller.
Okay, so
So
that's on there. So it looks really cute. And my thoughts on it, just that it's cute, it's bright. I feel like, having a daughter, a teenage daughter, that it's a good Valentine's gift or an Easter basket gift,
I
something like that.
agree.
So,
I really liked it. It's two of my favorite colors, pink and yellow, and the fortune teller was really nostalgic for me because I used to make them all the time when I was in elementary school. Once I got into the plot of this book and the plot started to thicken a little bit, I noticed something on the cover that I didn't really like, and we'll get into that later. But overall, I think it's so cute, and a lot of Casey West's newer covers are adorable, and they're so much fun to look at, especially when they're sitting on your bookshelf. Okay, so the next thing is, did we like or dislike her writing style?
I don't mind her writing style. Personally, just to give you off the bat, I'm not a YA romance person per se. I don't mind reading them. They're interesting to read, but for me, I was concerned in the beginning that it was similar to another one of her books called By Your Side, and I guess once you read it, you would understand what I'm trying to say, but it's right off the bat. And so I was a little bit worried about that. Also, the switch between, I know you were talking about that
Oh,
now and
like,
then.
I consider it dual POVs, but
Okay.
it's one chapter you're in the present, and then the next chapter you switch to, like, what was happening in her past.
Yeah. And that was a little difficult to keep up with sometimes. I guess if you put the book down and you walked away and you
Right.
came back. So
Yeah.
that was just, one little thing. But other than that, I didn't mind it. But how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I like her writing style. I don't think it's like anything special. I think a lot of romance, like a lot of the writing styles when it comes to romance are pretty similar. I think they differ more when you get into like fantasy and they can like world build and use a different sort of like dialect almost for their characters. And romance, it's mostly just English telling the story. And I don't mind that at all. I just don't think it was super unique, but it was easy to read too, which was good.
Yeah.
And then next up we have the trope. This was a best friends to enemies to lovers. So, what were your thoughts on that?
I just put in there, my note was that it made it interesting.
Mhm.
Um, uh, to see that, they did have a relationship before, which I appreciate. Um, and then unfortunately, whatever happened to that. So,
Mm.
but I do like how it ended up turning out. How about you?
Yeah, so one of the very first book I read from Casey West actually was Places We've Never Been, and that was also best friends to enemies to lovers, and I was happy that this one was like done a lot differently because I think if it was like super similar, then it would have just been repetitive. But also to give a little backstory on what this book is actually about, we have Indy, who her life like fell apart like completely, but she didn't want anybody to know, and she lost like her three best friends. And so one day she gets trapped in the bathroom with her like ex boy best friend, and as you can imagine, their relationship kind of rekindles, and then you can
Well,
imagine where
not
it goes from there.
immediately,
Not immediately, no, but
which keeps it interesting, I guess.
yeah. And then in the like past perspective, you get to see like how exactly her life fell apart and like see it unravel. So yeah, but I thought the trope was good. I like a best friends to enemies to lovers. I think it's fun, and I think like you said, like they already had a relationship, so then seeing that like rekindle was nice.
Yeah. All right, the next one is, do you have a favorite quote?
I did not.
And I did not.
Yeah.
So that one
This
was a
book
quick.
wasn't very quotable, I don't think. I think it was a bit more like yeah, it just wasn't
Yeah,
quotable.
no. All right.
Next up, comparison to her other books. So I have personally read a lot of her other books, and this one is one of my least favorites, I have to say. I like compared to her other books are very light for the most part. They're very fun, like fluffy romances, and I think this one was quite the opposite, where it was very like the two words that I kept like hearing in my head while I was reading this were like heavy and intense in terms of like what was going on in the book. I don't think it's intense to the point of needing to check like trigger warnings for it, but it was just a lot of like one of my notes was like you witnessed her life, Indy's life falling apart, and you felt like yours was falling apart with it
Right.
because of how much you're like in her life and everything that's going wrong. And it was like every like past perspective chapter was just like her life falling apart. And it also this book features a like I guess I would call it a side romance. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how to but she
It's
had
called My Worst Nightmare for My Daughter. That is what that one's called.
but it's Cody. Cody is the side romance. And I don't like tropes where the female main character is doing things in a relationship to escape her life. I don't like when that happens because to me it feels very like it gets intense.
Yeah.
Like especially kissing scenes and stuff where both of these characters are feeling so much emotion and they're pouring that into this kiss.
But they really don't
And
know each other at all.
right. And Indy and Cody were not friends. They just randomly met on occasion and then all of a sudden Indy started, going out with him just to escape all the problems that were going on in her life.
Right.
And I don't like that because I feel like not that I want to stand up for Cody because I didn't like him very much, but I feel like she was using him to try and quote unquote fix the problems in her life.
I think though that the author made it pretty clear that he did not really have an attachment to her
Oh no.
really either. So
Yeah.
that was not too deep, I don't think.
But you haven't read really
So
many
I
of her other
have
books.
read at least one
At
other
least
one. I'm
one.
not sure if I've read more than that, but the By Your Side, and I think it's a common theme throughout young adult books in general, and it's something that I found like kind of pre-reading things to try and find stuff for you to read.
Mhm.
That everything is so intense. You open
Mhm.
these books and they are um geez, I mean, and I understand you know teenagers are going through a lot and whatnot,
Yeah.
but it is so intense. The anxieties, usually,
Mm.
the stress, things like that. So it was one thing, and it gets to me sometimes. So that's why I said earlier, um, with the writing style, I opened this up and within the first few pages, I was like, I think it was by page 5 I wrote, or I think it was, yeah, page 5. I said my note was that I'm dreading it in a way because it reminds me, similarly of that book.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, even through the intensity of um, I'm not trying to give away anything, but through what went on through this book,
Mhm.
in the end, I feel like I was happy
Yeah.
at the end, thankfully. So, again, not not my favorite genres to read, but
Right.
I didn't mind it, but it was so similar to that one that I did read of hers.
Before we do any of
Mhm.
the other questions, I think it would be important to mention our rating for this book because I think we're not making it sound like we liked it very much. I rated this book 3.75 stars out of 5, and some of KCUS books have been 5 out of 5 for me. They usually are, but this one was just not. As I mentioned, it was very heavy, very intense, and that's not for me personally, especially going into this book, seeing the cover, I'm like, yes, like another one of her romances, it's gonna be good, like lighthearted, swoony, like funny. And then all the stuff that happened, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I said 3.75. I think it's still a good book.
Yeah.
Like you said,
So
in the
you would
end,
recommend it.
if you're okay with the intensity of it.
Okay.
But if you want a lighthearted, like fun, fluffy romance, I would recommend basically any of her other books. Some of my favorites are Places We've Never Been. Definitely Better Than Revenge, which is one of her newer ones, and then also Listen to Your Heart. I really liked that one. All from her. But yeah.
So I gave it 3.5 stars, and I just want to reiterate that I don't know that any YA romance would garner anything higher per se for me. Not rude,
Right.
just it's just not
It's just not your
necessarily,
style.
yeah, not my style. But I would recommend it. I would suggest, 15 and up. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, take that with a grain of salt. Everybody has to do their own thing. I just felt um the reason I say that is because there was a lot more physicality than I remember in her other books,
Hmm,
um,
that's a good point.
which, I don't necessarily love for anything younger than that. But did you have any other notes on it?
The one thing that I said that I just happened to think of today was I liked that there was the being friends with a boy because, as I mentioned, Indy was in this, like, I would call it a quartet, like, friendship. So it was her, two other girls, and then her boy best friend. And I really appreciated that the two other girls were his friends
Yeah.
and that there was no, like, emotional attachment in terms of like a relationship because me and my friend brought that up the other day with stuff happening in our lives, like why can't girls just be friends with guys and not have this expectation to get in a relationship. And I mean, obviously, like, you can imagine how Indy and Bo end up, but it's not like there wasn't like a love square between all four of them where like Caroline and Ava, who are her two other friends, like had a crush on him or something like that, which I really appreciated because that, like, there's such a stereotype now where it's like if you're friends with a boy, you're gonna date him, you like each other, like something's going on that people don't know when honestly you're just friends.
Well, and it's refreshing, and it's, something I try and say to you. You talk about some of your friends who are maybe dating or things like
Mm,
that. And it's interesting because we've laughed about some of the things in the sense that, people say that they're dating, but they never even knew the other person like
right.
at all. The
Yup.
person will just come up to them like, hey, you want to go out with me? And they're like, yeah. And so that doesn't make a lot of sense, or it doesn't, maybe give a good basis to a relationship. Whereas
Yeah.
these guys have gotten to know each other, and, you know, so they have a good foundation on that. Some of the other things that I'll say, just being a parent, is that there are um, just certain words and inferences in the beginning of the book that I just don't feel were necessary for any character building. Um, but it just didn't add anything to the story at all, especially for the age group that it was for.
Right.
But um, that aside, I don't think that uh, it took away too much. It's just little things that maybe weren't even necessary in the book, but I felt like it was a nice, quick read, and I, think other people would enjoy reading it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, I love her books and I love her as an author, but this one was just not, I just don't think this one was for me. I think it was just too much emotionally, especially as somebody who uses books to, like, I don't want to say disassociate, but like disconnect and unplug from the real world. This one felt a little too real.
Heavy. Yeah.
Also, one thing I wanted to talk about was relatability,
Mhm.
and I don't think we touched on that, but like I thought it was definitely relatable, especially for teen girls, coming from a teen girl, because I related to Indy, and academic validation is a real thing. So she definitely struggled with that. I mean, it's something that I see in so many of my friends. So I definitely related to her in that way, and I think that was good. And I think Casey West does a good job for the most part of creating stories that people can actually relate to.
Yeah, especially for that age group.
Right.
That's another thing I will say. Casey West in general is one of those that I normally feel like I don't have to pre-read for you to
Right.
read it.
Yeah.
So I am usually okay with most of the things that obviously you've already read and whatnot. But yeah, overall, I think she's, a good author for that genre. And it was a good read.
Yeah. Also to mention, this is a clean romance, so there's
Yeah.
nothing of that nature, just kissing and physical contact, but no.
No, like I said, just a couple words in there that they're not awful, but and inferences and just
Yeah. Just
they're
some
small.
choices
Yeah. They're
were made.
small, and again, I wish they could have been omitted, but that's fine. So if we don't have any other uh thoughts on this,
Mhm.
um I just wanted to let you know, with this being our first podcast episode,
Episode.
our goal is to review at least one book a month, but we definitely want to do more content than that. So
Yeah.
with the books,
So if you want to follow along with us, which we would love, next month we're going to be reading A Twisted Tale Anthology by Elizabeth Lim. And this one is for our Disney lovers out there, because we are big Disney fans. We're a big Disney family. And this one is a collection of short stories written by all different authors, actually. So it's kind of like a compilation. Technically, it's an anthology, but um, but it's a bunch of different twists on classic Disney stories. So, like, what would happen if Remy from Ratatouille met Colette first instead of Linguini? Or what would happen if Tinkerbell was actually working with Captain Hook the entire time?
yeah, I'm
And
excited for this one.
yeah, I must say I am actually in the middle of reading this one because it's quite a thick book, but I have some thoughts on it for sure, and it's definitely good and it's definitely fun. So you can pick that up and read along with us, which we would love. And like I said earlier, we're trying to get a list of our questions that we use out to you guys so that you can follow along when we're talking about it. And also, if you just want to put it in your book journal, or just use it to jot down your thoughts on any books that you read, you can do that. So that'll hopefully be out soon for you guys to print out.
And then we'll be working on different topics for our next blurb. So, anything, like we said earlier, from travel to food to, just Disney, more books, anything like that. We're just trying to have fun here.
Coffee.
Coffee, or fun drinks, I guess, non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
Just anything like that. So just keep looking out for our next blurb and stay tuned for that.
Some fun new content
Yep.
coming your way, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Also be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Blurb Society for more frequent updates. I think we're gonna try and post on there pretty frequently. Definitely a lot more than we'll be posting podcast episodes. But so if you want more real-time updates, you can check us out there. And we're also going to be posting our podcast on YouTube. So I don't know when exactly that will be up, probably a little later than our Spotify podcast episode, but check us out on YouTube at the Blurb Society. Subscribe, and you can listen in there.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
And
we hope you come back.
Yeah.
Please come back.
Yeah. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.